thriving. Hey yo, ambitious, the go-getters that handle business, the up and rising. This is Flirty and thriving. The motivation, the dedication, the inspiration. This is entrepreneur, making her own moves, making her own rules. This is Flirty and thriving. Yeah, a little sexy, cool with Amber. Boom. This is Flirty and thriving.
What's up? It's your girl AB, and it's another episode of 30, Flirty, and Thriving. I am here today with the amazing, incredible Nina Karetova. For those of you unfamiliar with Karetova, she is a photographer. Particularly, she's been focused on celebrity photography and hip-hop photography down here in Atlanta, Georgia. So, I'm excited to jump in and learn a little bit more about her. Now, Karetova, tell me, how long have you been doing photography?
Oh God, my mom was an artist and I could never paint or do anything that my mom did, so I picked up a camera at an early age and would just play with her camera and pretend, I was a photographer, and that was my form of art. But when I moved to New York, I would say everything really started around 2009.
Okay, so about 10 years then.
Yeah.
And what type of photography did you initially start doing?
Actually, no, let's jump that back to 2007 it started.
Okay.
So 12, yeah.
Wow. And what type of photography were you doing initially?
Oh my God, this is the typical, here's a flower, click, here's this, click. And then everything shifted in my career when I was in New York because there was a photo gallery over there, and I would always visit, and I got to know the owner, and he invited me to come to classes and stuff. And so I just had my point and shoot camera at the time, and he insisted that I just enter in a couple things into a show that was upcoming. And I was just like, my stuff's not good enough, but I entered in a couple of pictures from my point and shoot camera and won an award. So,
wow.
Yeah, the jury picked it as.
And were those the flower pictures?
No, that was actually in California, where I'm from. There was an old building, and it was part of the community college there. And they were going to revamp the whole building, so it still had all the old desks. It hadn't been used, I think, since the 50s or 60s. But it still had desks set up in there and broken windows. And so I took a picture of this light just hitting these desks, and my whole basis of that, the whole story behind it, I said, was the broken school systems we have today, the broken educational systems. And those desks had broken windows, and just all the garbage around showed, that was my representation of our educational system today.
I love it. So you're from California?
From California.
But you've moved around a little bit.
Lived in New York, Midwest, last stop was New Orleans.
What's been your favorite place to live so far?
I'm always going to say the Bay Area of, California, but Atlanta's catching up quickly.
Yeah.
I went through a rough time here in Atlanta, but, it all.
So tell me about your experience in Atlanta. How long have you been here?
I've been here for about a year now, going on a year.
And why did you come? What brought you to Atlanta?
I landed in the hip hop industry. My whole transition into the music industry is a whole different story, because once again, with my point and shoot camera, I would go to concerts and I would take pictures of concerts and stuff. But once again, I never showed anybody or put them anywhere. I just had all these photos, and one day one of my friends saw some of the photos, and she's like, "You're really good at photography." I'm like, yeah, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I would go online and I'd look at everybody else's work and just be like, my stuff's not as good as theirs. So one day I decided, I got encouraged by the person I was with at the time and my friend, just put some stuff out there. So I started this completely awful generic website. It was awful. I even had my flower pictures on there. And so I'm like, okay, well now I have this crappy website. I don't want anybody I know to see, how am I going to promote this? So then I'm like, let me go see what Twitter's all about. Mm-hmm. So I went on Twitter and just started an account and started following people and started just kind of seeing what was out there in the world of Twitter. And then I started dropping photos into the Twitter account here and there. And then there's a magazine out of Brooklyn, New York called QRO Magazine. They're an online magazine, and they went from being the small little hub to just pretty much overnight. And they had written an article on a band I liked. So I commented on the article saying, hey, that's a really great article. A couple days later, I got an email from them saying, hey, we see that you have an eye and we'd like to work with you. Will you be one of our photographers for concerts and stuff?
The power of social media.
Social media, I'm telling you, a Twitter account, who knew?
That is awesome.
And so that started my whole music career. And they really took me in because like when I like go back and I look at those first photos I took for them, they were like, oh my God, they were so awful. I'm like, these people must really loved me and believed in me. And it's just, so through their website, I can see the transition of my work. And actually on my Instagram, I'm going to put some, this was then, this is now photos just to show the shift of how much things have grown. Because I just went from doing small little venues to now it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
You know.
Speaking of your Instagram, what is it so people want to find you?
Karetova, Karetova.
It's pretty simple, pretty simple. Now, you're Russian. How do you say your name in Russian?
Well, technically, Karetova is my last name in Russian because if you ever see like the tennis players and stuff, they always have Ova at the end because the father's name is feminized. Mm-hmm. So like it would be Nina Karetova.
Okay.
But technically, I should have my dad's middle name, which is John, so it would be Nina John. But in Russian, it's Nina Ivanova Karetova.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel really in touch with your Russian roots?
I do. I try to hold on. I grew up in a really tight, small culture that once you marry out of the culture, you're kind of excommunicated from it. So like I was kind of excommunicated from it, but I try to hold on to the traditions, you know. So, and it's not like they're like banning you, like, oh, you can't, you know. I mean, there's some people like that, but for the most part, it's I just can't go to, like when my mom passed away, I couldn't be part of the family prayers. I had to be on the side, you know, on the sideline with the guests, kind of things. You know, but I try to hold on to it just through like my cooking and, you know, and I'm still old school when it comes to like dating and the way things work in our culture, you know, so I'm still kind of old school in a lot of ways.
Nice. So you are doing photography out here in Atlanta now as kind of like a celebrity hip hop photographer, but you've done flowers, you've done broken school buildings, you've done corporate photography, right?
Yeah, for Indiana University, I was their main event photographer. I did all of like every type of corporate thing they had for their business school.
So how has that transition been? I mean, that's different. Doing event, corporate, kind of not boring, but kind of boring photography to being in the like clubs and the nitty gritty.
Yeah, it was like
the track.
Yeah,
the track clubs.
Yeah, because when I got to Atlanta, I really didn't know anybody, and I didn't have anybody's help of like, don't go here, don't do. So I was hitting 3 to 5 nightclubs a night by myself. And when I could, and then I ended up at Escobar and met a couple of promoters at Escobar who then kind of took me under their wing. That was OG Management and Lone Star Entertainment took me under their wing and started taking me to the clubs with their crews and their artists and their people. And so that really branched me out on a whole different level. And then there's a guy here in Atlanta who's with the Coalition DJs, street politician, who pretty much gave me my very first red carpet event because he had met me through my friend Steve Reyes, who's the director, casting guy for Love and Hip Hop. His clientele is like Master P and all these like crazy, you know, industry people. But he gave me my first red carpet event because I met him one day and he's like, I really like you. And then before I knew it, I was shooting a red carpet event for Zaytoven, and that's where it all started.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know Karetova or haven't followed her yet, she's kind of a big deal. I mean, I've only known her a couple of months, but I've had the pleasure of spending quite a bit of time with her in the short time I've known her. And when you go anywhere, even at just a random Jamaican restaurant, she's gonna run into somebody she knows that she's working with.
And that part is so crazy to me because it's like, you know, you see on TV when all these celebrities are like people just coming up to them, and it's like, oh, that would be so crazy. And now it's just like I have people coming up to me and it's like, oh, okay, thank you. And then people are like, oh, who is that? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
you know,
and this is real because I've seen it. I'm like, or people are approaching her like she's the celebrities are approaching her like she's the celebrity.
Yeah, and there's like times where I'll introduce myself to a major celebrity, just saying, hey, I'm sorry, I just want to introduce this Karetova. Oh no, I heard of you. Finally get to meet you, and I'm just kind of like, wait a minute, how really?
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing I always tell people, because people ask how I, because I went from, like, my whole story in Atlanta was starting off sleeping in my car here in Atlanta to, and I would go shoot these red carpet events. And then if I couldn't get into the warehouse where my studio was, to sleep in the office. And this is in Georgia in summer with no air conditioner. I'm listening to rats run above my head, and I couldn't sleep with the windows open because there were recording studios, and there were times where guys would be jumping in my windows at night to get to the recording studios. So
wait a minute, why do they have to jump through the window?
Because the doors would be locked and they couldn't get back into their session, and they would see my windows open and they decided, oh, we could just jump through those windows. And then they would be like, yo, sorry, we didn't. And I'm like, yeah, you're lucky I didn't just have a gun or anything. And then I would park my car in the South Side Walmart parking lot. And on my Instagram, there's a picture of that parking lot saying, because at the end of the night, if the gates were locked, that was the only safe place to really, and I learned a couple other spots here in Atlanta that were safe to park my car and sleep.
Which I think is, even though you went through those obviously very kind of like scary, hard times, you did what you had to do in order to do what you love.
The crazy thing was, I was never scared about it.
You just did it.
I just did it because I knew this is where I was meant to be. When my mom passed away in 2014, my mom had cancer, and I quit everything I was doing to go take care of my mom in California. And our very last conversation before she passed away, like our last talk, and like a day or two later she passed away, because she stopped talking completely after this conversation, was her telling me about my whole life, me being raised in that Russian box because she didn't know, and she apologized to me because she said she didn't know how to raise me because I was so different and I was so forward and so like ahead of my time. She didn't know how to mold that, so she apologized because she said God had showed her everything I went through and all the trouble and and the feeling of never belonging anywhere, and so God showed her what I went through. And she apologized for all of that. But then she said, but then God showed me where you are now. And I'm telling you now, you need to quit your job. You need to quit everything you're doing and put your camera in your hand, because that's what's going to guide you. And she said, God showed me where you're going to go. And she showed me where you're going to end up. The family's not going to approve. The community's not going to approve. You're going to lose people. You're going to blood, sweat, tears, everything. But God showed me where you're going, and it's beyond what you're ever going to imagine. And I'm already living that life here in Atlanta. I mean, I used to like watch TV shows about Atlanta or watch reality TV thinking like, oh, one day I just want to go to Atlanta and see it. And then it's like I drive through downtown, and I'm like, every single time I'm driving on the 85 and I see that skyline, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like living in Atlanta. And now those people that I watched on TV, are in my phone, or, I run into at the mall, or I run into different places, and it's just like,
wow. Yeah. That's a beautiful testament of how, like you said, you wasn't really scared, you just kind of did it. I mean, I think when we start to decide, we chase our dreams, we start to follow our passions, there's a lot of sacrifice involved in that.
I had a long-term relationship that I lost because of my career. I've lost friends, I've lost family members because people don't understand how much sacrifice goes into this. I've made mistakes in business. I've lost business relationships. It's like I can't go home to California for weddings and funerals and birthday parties. So people, some people kind of forget about you, and you stop hearing from people. But it's, I know that what I'm doing here in Atlanta, it's not just about me being a photographer, because outside of being a photographer, my camera is going to lead me to changing the communities of Atlanta.
Right.
And that's my ultimate goal. And it's not about me having clout of like, oh, I have this celebrity number, I have that celebrity number, because it's never about clout. It's about having those numbers in my phone, because those are the people that I can call, hey, I'm having this event at this community center for kids. We're doing a talent show. Can you come give them an award at 8 o'clock, take a few pictures, either 30 minutes, and then you're done. So for me, it's about having those numbers to help me better the communities of Atlanta.
Right. That's a beautiful thing, being able to put yourself in a position to solicit others to give back to the community that is giving you so much in just a short time.
And it's crazy, like some of the people that back me, it's like, yeah, just call us, tell us what you need, you got it. And it's just like, oh, really?
Right,
really?
That's amazing.
Especially like when your biggest hero in the industry, says, hey, look, we're gonna have a meeting in January, you're gonna, I wanna sit down and talk to you, and it's like your biggest person in the whole hip hop industry, and you're just like, oh,
So are you constantly like, pinch me, is this real? Or you're just...
Yeah, and the thing about it is, because people always ask, like, how do I handle, how did I get so far? Because there's photographers here in Atlanta who haven't gotten as far as I have, in such a short time. And I just say it's about staying authentic and humble.
Yeah.
And stuff like, if I see an artist, half the time I don't even know who they are because I'm new in hip hop. So that was a whole other learning curve, is learning like who's who and who's.
So hip hop's not even like, you wouldn't come into this like, oh, I just love hip hop, I love music.
No, I just like in 2016 I did the Global Spin Awards in New Orleans, and that's where I met DJ Envy, his wife Gia Casey. I met DJ Khaled and Camilo and Scram and a bunch of other guys, and just hanging out with them for that little bit. Just I knew that night my life had changed and my life had shifted.
Wow.
Yeah, and I met Johnny Nunez, who's like the biggest photographer in hip hop industry. I thought he was just, because I never know who anybody is, and I just thought he was a normal guy. And I just walked up to him and he was all half asleep on the red carpet. And I said, "Hey, you need to like lighten up. We're on the red carpet." And started talking to him. He's like, I'm like, oh, because I was still new in New Orleans and didn't know anybody. And he's like, oh no, I'm from New York, and found out who he was. We kept in contact through social media, but I never looked at who he was. I was just like, oh, this is a cool guy from New York, whatever. So like 3 weeks into us knowing each other, I finally looked up who he was, and I'm like, oh no, this is like the real deal here. And I called him on the phone. I'm like, Johnny, you got to realize I didn't know who you were when I met you. And this is a person who I can call and say, Johnny, this is what I want. But I told him I didn't know who he was, and I'm not going to be one of those people that calls him.
Yeah.
And stuff, and and it's just, so I never asked him for anything. The only thing I ever asked him for was like business advice, or moving, or if I felt something was a little shady in something, hey, have you ever dealt with these people?
Yeah.
And he would be like, yes or no, whatever, or let me find out for you, but.
So what would you say?
But now he's calling me saying, what are you doing in Atlanta? Because I have people calling me. How do you get to know all my people?
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. So you've obviously had a lot of opportunities and a lot of success come your way in a short period of time, but what would you say your biggest challenges have been, or something that you continue to face that you're ready to overcome?
There's always still, that little bit of insecurity in things. Because it's like I was a girl in high school, and this is like the crazy thing too, because I look at my life now and like the people that I'm with, and I was the girl in high school that was always awkward. I always had friends, but I never quite fit in. I was the girl who never got asked to prom, all of that, and now I'm like living this like kind of dream life. And so there's always, I'm just always constantly just trying to keep myself in check, because I don't want to get caught up in the scene. I don't want it to change who I am. I want to stay humble. So there's always that struggle of not getting caught up in things, and so it's always, it's just always keeping that balance. I mean, because you see how I live my life. It's like I don't have people in my house, it's like I try to keep my private life very private, very quiet, and when I'm out in the clubs, but then I'm ready to go home,
right?
And stuff.
So what would your advice be to somebody who maybe is thinking about either breaking into the hip hop industry in any form, or somebody who is interested in getting into photography?
The first thing for like, if you're gonna buy stuff for camera equipment, don't do the usual like buy 10,000 things. Just buy the most simple camera you can afford. Everything I did, I started off with a point and shoot camera, and then I just kind of grew my stuff. Once again, it's staying authentic. Find a mentor. Like I tell people all the time, if you want to learn how to be a photographer, call me. Be my assistant. Come with me. I'm always encouraging people. I have a Dropbox link that I'll send out. Here's the thing on off-camera flash and composition, and I have a whole series of stuff in this Dropbox link that I'll send out to people. No charge, no nothing, just stuff that I've collected over the years to let them have so they can learn. And people always ask me, well, aren't you afraid of like teaching these people all of your skills because then they become your competition? And it's like, no, I'm not afraid of the competition. I want these people to come to a job interview that I have, and I want them to get it, because then that proves I did what I was supposed to. It's never about competition. It's about how can we, each reach our goals together.
Right.
There's enough in this world for everybody.
Absolutely.
And if you both are going for a job with Beyonce and the other person gets it, it's because it's not your time yet. Your time is going to come around. You may not get that job with Beyonce, but then some other Drake may call you and be like, hey, go on tour with me.
Mm-hmm. You never know what's around the corner. You never know what your next meeting is going to be.
Yeah, and that was a whole lot of, in the beginning for me in Atlanta, was learning, because learning who was who, and, some people tell you a bunch of stuff that isn't true, and I didn't have people to really ask, like, who's this person, who's that person, are they real, are they not? So I had to go through this, like, maze of people myself and figure out who was authentic and who was just full of it, and so it's just, always keep your guard up in the beginning, find a mentor. There's lots of photographers that'll have people come in as an assistant, learn as much as you can, YouTube, everything. There's times where I would be going to a concert and I'd be like, how do I shoot a concert? YouTube it, and then off I would go, and stuff, and just, I didn't go to college for this. All of this was self-taught through, in Indiana, a portrait photographer, Kit May, took me under his wing. Lisa Walker took me under her wing to teach me how to shoot weddings in the beginning. So it's just, there's people out there that you can come up under.
So, 2 questions. One is regards to editing, because you said you're self-taught, so did you teach yourself how to edit as well?
Yeah, all through like YouTube and
what do you use to edit, or what would you recommend for someone who's just starting out? I
am all about Lightroom because it's just easy, basic, but then you also have to have a little bit of a Photoshop skill, because there's things like if I have to remove something. But luckily, a lot with my photography, unless I'm in a studio, I really don't have to do, because when you do event photography, you just do a batch edit, send it out type of thing.
Gotcha. So just like go through all the pictures, quick edits here and there, but boom.
Yeah, and then also too, when you're working for publications, like I work for publications, you don't edit. You just, because they want to how they are.
Gotcha.
And stuff. You could do a little bit like lighting and a little bit like cropping, but you can't go in and touch up photos. Like if you're doing a concert for a lot of, like if you're shooting for Getty or you're shooting for certain publications, you're not allowed to even, or like the newspaper, you're not allowed to go in and do all this edits and then put that in. It like is just that image you took.
So my next question, I know a lot of people starting out in any business, but particularly photography, they don't know what to charge people. They're like, how do I put a value or a price tag on my time and my pictures and me being there and travel and all the things that you have to go through, because photography is not as simple as taking pictures. I mean, you're traveling, you're hustling and bustling and putting a lot of time and effort and energy and your own money into doing this. So how do you determine pricing? And does it change as you change, or as
definitely it changes, because I went from shooting, come to shoot for free just to get my name out there, but that is super detrimental to your career ahead. Is you got to charge something, even if it's, I'll come in for $25, I'm just learning. You got to charge something, because what happens, and what I learned here, in this scene, is people got used to me being like, oh, she'll come for free. So when I started flipping, because now it's like I would walk into a club for free, and then it'd be like, okay, well, I'll charge you $50, or $25, how much ever I charged at that time just to come into the club so I would have access so I can grow my portfolio. Then it'd be like, oh, okay, well, we'll give you that. But now my minimum to walk in a club is $100. Like I won't walk into a club with my camera for any less than $100.
So do you do it by time? Like I'll come for an hour for $100, or you do it by, I'm a flat fee. This is how much it is, whether I'm there for 10 minutes or 2 hours.
It just depends on the event. Because if I'm doing a very high-end celebrity event where this is like publication work, then it's like one pricing. If this is just for a promoter, then it's a completely different. So it just depends on where the photos are going to go, what the event is, who's going to be there, and all of that. Is it a weekend? Is it a weekday? Is it a holiday? It's like all over. But one of the things you can do for pricing is there's like lots of groups on Facebook where you can go in and social media. Go to Facebook, type in photography groups, different things like that, and people will help you out. What's your pricing for this? There's like photography clubs you can join. I know Atlanta, I've never been to the Atlanta photography group yet, but I've been wanting to go. I just haven't had time. But like when I was in Indiana, the Bloomington photography group I became part of, so that kind of helped me out. But Facebook, there's like 1,000,001 groups on there about pricing, editing, photography, starting your business. It's broken down to if you're a boudoir photographer, concert photographer, there are 1,000,001 groups on there.
Wow.
So a lot of my pricing and a lot of my stuff came from that. And also too, I'm at a point now where I have people, that are in the industry. One of my business consultants, when there's certain jobs that come up, I call him and ask him because he's been in the industry for over 25 years. And he pays for photographers like me. He has very high-end clients. And I would just call him and be like, hey, what would you pay for blah, blah, A, B, C, and D. Oh, this is how much we normally pay in New York, and this is what we pay in Atlanta, and so then I break down those prices from. So there's always somebody to get that advice from and build from, but always charge something, because if you're not charging, you're not showing people your value.
Absolutely. So,
and the one thing on the end of that too is when you do get those pricings and you do start, because like my pricings, even on my studio shoots, people will be like, oh, that's too much money. We can get somebody for $100. I'm like, okay, fine. Never be afraid to walk away from a job and stuff. I would rather go hungry and not be able to pay my light bill than to lessen my value to that customer.
And have that continuation of people.
Yeah, because then they're going to tell their friend, hey, yeah, we haggled them down to $100, instead, and we got her to bend to that. But then that friend is going to think that, and then that becomes your thing of, oh, well, she'll bend to do A, B, and C,
Right.
And you gotta hold tight to whatever it is, and you gotta do it based on your experience. If you're just starting out, tell people I'm just starting out. I'm only charging $50.
So if there was anything that you wish you would have known before you started doing what you're doing now, hip hop photography in particular, or even before you came to Atlanta, what do you wish you would have known?
I just wish, but it all came in time. I just wish I had a little bit of a thicker skin coming into the industry and stuff, because there was a lot, because, I just wish I had that thicker skin, because there was a lot of, oh, she's only, here because she's a white girl. Oh, she's only getting ahead because, of this person or that person. And, so a lot of that in the beginning, because I came into this and like I had people in the industry tell me not to come into this industry because it was too hard. It was too cutthroat. I was too nice. People were going to eat me alive. I was going to end up damaged and jaded. And, and so I had people warning me about getting into not just hip hop, but like into that world of the music industry, not specifically just the
like
higher,
entertainment.
into the entertainment world. Because I don't want to say like, oh, hip hop's all,
because
that's not the case. It's the entertainment industry in general. And I'm like, oh, I can handle it. Well, there was a lot of situations, that I was just like, oh, crap. And now these people are talking about me. What do I, and but the one person, I just remember Tony Neal. Tony Neal. If you don't know who Tony Neal is, go find him on social media. He's an amazing DJ, mentor, everything. And one of the first conversations I had with him, I introduced myself to him and had this, and I didn't know he was such a big deal as he is. And so I'm sitting there talking to him, and he had asked me, what's the hardest thing about you, coming into the hip hop world or coming into the music world? And I said, it's what people are saying about me sometimes gets to me, and I don't know quite how to handle it. I don't, nobody knows me. I don't know them, and sometimes the gossip and the words, just kind of wear me out. And he looked at me, he's like, let me give you some advice. He goes, here's my advice. He goes, you gotta be like Cardi B, because that's when Cardi B first came out. What I did A, B, and C? Yeah, so what? He goes, you gotta have that so what Cardi B attitude. So?
Right.
What is it to you? Kind of thing. And then he said, the other thing too is if those people aren't talking about you, it's because you're irrelevant. He said the moment people stop gossiping about you and stop trying to bring you down is the moment you've become irrelevant. So do you want to have those people talking about you to keep you relevant, or do you want them to disappear? Because he goes, what's going to happen is those people that are talking about you, those people who aren't going to know you're going to be like, dude, let's go check out who this girl is.
Right.
And then they're going to go to your social media and be like, dude, this girl's dope. What do you, and so they're going to see that, whatever this person is saying is like, not really what it is, and then they're going to ask people about you. And so he said, so it's just going to pump you up even more. Because those people that are gossiping about you and talking about you are just as important as the people that are supporting you and loving you.
That's an interesting perspective, for sure.
No.
So, okay, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
Oh, I don't know, just stay authentic, stay real.
Yeah.
You know, and like once again for me, my whole career is about not just having that camera in my hand, but it's about what I'm going to do for the communities of Atlanta. Always put a purpose behind your career. Don't just do it for clout. Just don't do it because people are going to see that. People in the industry are going to see that. They're going to read through that, and just stay true to who you are. I mean, I tell people, I'm still a California girl in the hip hop scene who doesn't dress hip hop. I still call people dude. You know, dude, listen to this. You know, and you know, I'm still that same California girl. I'm not adjusting to what is surrounding me. I'm staying authentic and true to who I am, and I'm being embraced even more because of that.
I love that. Okay, one more time so people know how to find you.
Karetova, Karetova on Instagram.
Thank you, and that's 30, Flirty, and Thriving. That's a wrap. All right. Let's hope that recorded the whole thing.